Victor King, Carter Technologies' newly appointed Chief Operations Officer, swept into the gleaming 30th floor hallway just as Rosa, the night shift custodian, finished buffing the marble. He paused, appraising her nondescript gray uniform with a tight sneer. "You still don't understand your place, do you?" he hissed. "You're nothing but janitorial staff, nothing more. Clean this floor again until I can see my reflection in it, or don't bother coming back." Rosa's grip tightened on her mop handle. She'd polished this stretch of corridor 3 times this shift already. "Sir, it's spotless," she replied softly, striving to keep her voice steady despite the rush of indignation. Rather than acknowledge her, Victor seized a metal water pitcher from a nearby service cart and appended it, drenching Rosa from head to toe. Cold water streamed down her hair, her uniform plastered to her back, and pooled at her feet. "Now you have something real to clean," he cackled before stalking off, his polished shoes clicking sharply against the floor. The corridor fell silent. Junior managers peered out of offices, startled. Only they didn't see a meek housekeeper, they stared at the very woman who had founded Carter Technologies and turned it into a billion-dollar fintech powerhouse. In her true life, Evelyn Carter had built this firm from a rented suburban office, enduring skepticism and bias to revolutionize digital banking. Now, under the alias Rosa, she would bear the sting of humiliation she once only heard about from her cleaning staff, a necessary first step in revealing the rot eating away at her company's culture. As Evelyn squeezed water from her hair into the drain, she recalled the boardroom meeting confirmed for the next morning, where shareholders, including her own son, Michael, would assess the state of Carter Technologies. Humiliated now, she would use every insult, every scuff mark, to gather the truth she needed to restore the company she loved. 35 years ago, Evelyn Carter was not the celebrated tech magnate she is known as today but a determined 25-year-old with a vision. In an era still rife with doubt about women, let alone women of color, launching a financial software startup was audacious. She pooled $10,000 in seed money from friends and family, rented a tiny office in suburban New Jersey, and wrote code by day, pitched investors by night, and slept at her desk when rent was due. Her breakthrough came when a regional credit union agreed to pilot her transaction security platform. Early success snowballed into larger contracts, and word spread. Carter's clean interface and rock-solid reliability made her young company a favorite among community banks. Within a decade, Carter Tech, later rebranded Carter Technologies, had grown into a national player, offering mobile banking solutions that competitors struggled to match. Yet Evelyn never lost sight of the small-town values that shaped her: respect for every employee's role, from receptionist to senior engineer, commitment to inclusivity, and the belief that a company's strength lay in how it treated even its lowest-paid workers. Her keynote speeches always highlighted the janitorial crew's late-night work as essential to daily client presentations. As Carter Technologies approached its 30th anniversary, Evelyn, now in her early 60s, realized it was time to hand over the reins. Her only child, Michael Carter, had graduated top of his class at MIT, earned an MBA at Stanford, and cut his teeth leading strategic initiatives within the firm. Evelyn saw in him a genuine passion for both profit and purpose. After careful mentoring, she announced a phased retirement. Effective this quarter, Michael would assume the CEO role, while she transitioned to board chairman and strategic advisor. But stepping back exposed a new threat. Reports trickled in of rising employee complaints, middle managers abusing their power, favoring elites, and mistreating facilities staff. Subtle acts of bias and a tense workplace atmosphere contradicted everything Evelyn had built. Whispers reached her through old guard colleagues: people get promoted for who they know, not what they do. Junior staff dread coming in. Concerned, Evelyn proposed a mystery employee program, akin to her earlier mystery shopper pilots. Select a senior leader to work incognito in various roles to identify service gaps and culture breakdowns. The board agreed, but when no one volunteered, Evelyn decided to become the first undercover auditor herself. That night, she donned the plain gray janitor's uniform, exchanged her tailored heels for scuffed slip-ons, dyed her hair a darker shade, and became Rosa. Her mission: witness firsthand the erosion of Carter Technologies' values, gather evidence of misconduct, and, if necessary, restore the company's soul from within the corridors she once gave full company addresses. Evelyn entered the headquarters through the basement service entrance, where the cleaning crews assembled. She introduced herself as Rosa Wright, a temp hired for the graveyard shift. The janitorial manager, Leonard Price, handed her a cart loaded with supplies and only a cursory rundown of standard procedures, reflecting how invisible the custodial team had become. In the dimly lit corridors, she felt the weight of anonymity, no nods of respect from passing staff, no greetings from security scanning badges. The sleek marble lobby of Carter Technologies, once a source of pride, now felt like a gauntlet of indifference. Evelyn pushed her cart past gleaming offices and patted her pace, keenly aware that any sudden recognition could derail her experiment. Her first task was the 28th floor's executive suite hallway. She scrubbed under the baseboards, mentally mapping which teams occupied which wings. Every few minutes, she paused to note the polished brass and dark walnut veneer, recalling her early demos with those very panels as backdrops. The irony of now being ignored was not lost on her. She had selected the night shift on purpose. Managers worked late, while regular employees had long since gone home. To collect honest observations, she needed to slip unnoticed into areas where off-the-clock talk happened. At 10 p.m., she reached the corner outside Victor King's office. His nameplate glinted under the fluorescent light. Evelyn steadied herself. This was where she'd be humiliated first, to test how new leadership treated those beneath them. Moments later, Victor strutted up, carrying a stack of reports. He froze when he saw Rosa nearing the gleaming floor. Evelyn lowered her gaze, pretending concentration. "Move aside," he barked. "This is first-class territory. We have VIP clients walking through here at 11. Evelyn's heart sank. It was exactly the condescension she feared. Instead of replying, she simply stepped aside as instructed, squeezing her mop handle. Next, she ventured to the cafeteria where late-night coders grabbed energy bars. No one offered her a cup of coffee. She watched them clustered by a break-room table, voices low but tense. One engineer complained about endless layoffs, another grumbled about managerial favoritism. Evelyn jotted each word. Her final route that night passed the 32 Andy floor lounge for senior staff. She saw a lead developer criticize the new head of customer success, whom Evelyn had hired herself, calling her all talk, no real product sense. Evelyn hid behind a hallway pillar, noting the dismissive laughter. The fragmentation of loyalty and respect was palpable. By 2 a.m., she'd catalogued microaggressions, whispered betrayals, and structure breakdowns. Cleaning the CEO's private restroom, an echoing sanctum of luxury, she paused to reflect. The company she birthed had drifted perilously close to an us versus them culture. Her final stop was the 38th floor mailroom, where custodial staff tucked packages under desks and sorted envelopes. Evelyn helped consolidate recycling bins, listening quietly as co-workers complained of impossible schedules and no grievance channel. Their resigned glances at management offices said more than any formal survey. As dawn approached, she returned her cart and clocked out, every muscle aching. Rosa's journal bulged with notes. Tomorrow, she'd face Victor's cruelty. Beyond that, she'd confront the HR machine that turned a blind eye. But first, she needed to process the raw evidence of a fractured culture, evidence she would soon deploy to save Carter Technologies from itself. Evelyn's second night as Rosa began at 9:45 p.m., pushing her cart toward the western wing. She paused outside Victor King's office, a sleek suite with tinted glass. Tonight, she expected another confrontation. At exactly 10 p.m., Victor stormed out, late reports crumpled in his hand. His sharp gaze fell on Rosa, already methodically waxing the hallway. He snapped, you missed that spot by the elevator. He lifted a paper cup of coffee on the wall trim, flicked it so a few drops splashed her. Do better, or find another job. His tone carried the same disdain as last week's water attack, but now Evelyn had prepared. She looked up, eyes meeting his, and said nothing. Instead, she quietly wiped the trim again, each motion deliberate. Victor turned on his heel, smirk intact, but his shoulders stiffened. He hadn't expected her to simply comply without self-justification. Next, Evelyn headed to the marketing floor, where Nathan Price, the brash director of strategic communications, held court. He was known for pitching flashy ad campaigns, and for wielding his power with sadistic delight. As Rosa waxed the boardroom doorframe, Nathan swaggered out in a designer suit. "Rosa," he drawled, "could you buff these chairs, please? They look better under my watch than before." He tapped the seat cushion, which was already spotless. When Rosa complied, he crumpled part of a briefing document and gestured. "Now do it again. Clean up my mess." The boardroom's glass walls made Rosa an unwilling audience to his every sneer. Within minutes, Nathan returned holding a full cup of iced mocha, purposely steering Rosa's mop close enough that a few drops spattered the floor. "Oh, sorry," he quipped, barely containing his amusement. "Guess you missed a spot." He sauntered away, leaving Rosa trapped between horror and fury. Evelyn stayed calm, but inside she marveled at how far from her founding ethos the company had drifted. She watched as Nathan's team laughed at his antics, no one reprimanded him. The implicit message was clear: power lay in humiliation. Later, in the employee break room, she encountered two other junior managers comparing notes on efficiency. They praised Victor's ruthless standards and Nathan's flair for motivational redirection, code for public shaming. As Rosa restocked paper towels, she overheard them mocking the very concept of taking time to ensure quality beyond their own desks. By midnight, Evelyn realized these encounters were more than isolated cruelty, they exemplified a broader breakdown. The managers she once trained to value every role now treated custodians as disposable obstacles. The heart of Carter Technologies, team respect, had withered. As she polished the final panel before clock-out, she made a silent vow: she would not let Victor, Nathan, or their enablers continue this degradation. Tomorrow, she'd seek out HR Director Olivia Brooks for answers, but she already feared the answer. The real restoration would require confronting the complacent culture she had helped create. Following 2 nights of direct abuse, Evelyn, still Rosa, decided it was time to engage human resources. She navigated to the 20th floor, where Olivia Brooks, Carter Technologies' HR director, maintained a reputation for fairness and staff advocacy. Evelyn hoped to find an ally. Stepping into Brooks's office suite, Rosa braced herself. Even the decor, plush chairs and framed Employee of the Month photos, felt like stage props for a benevolent bureaucracy. She knocked, entered, and announced herself. "Hello, Ms. Brooks. I'm Rosa Wright from Custodial. I need to report serious misconduct by senior managers." Brooks barely looked up. She'd built her career enforcing policy, not feeling emotion. "Rosa," she replied flatly, "we're all busy. Keep it concise." The dismissiveness stung. Evelyn recounted Victor's water dunking, Nathan's coffee spills, the targeted humiliations. She spared no detail. Brooks leaned back, steepling her fingers. "That's unfortunate. But managers have high standards. If you can't keep up, you might consider another role." She tapped her pen. "We can't micromanage every interaction. You're a janitor. You know your place." Rosa's mouth went dry. This was the department that should have protected her. If HR's policy was ignoring harassment from above, no one in the company was safe. Brooks offered a perfunctory smile. "If things get worse, you can file a formal grievance. But I can't promise anything will change." As Rosa left, Evelyn's dismay turned to resolve. The one institution meant to safeguard dignity had become complicit. She passed rows of HR staff. Young associates tapping laptops, eyes down, none offering a glance. The sterile hallways rebuffed her as thoroughly as the CEO lobby had. Over the next 2 evenings, Rosa pressed the issue with Brooks via email and in brief hallway encounters, only to be rebuffed each time. Brooks cited business priorities and limited resources. The company's grievance system had become a black hole for complaints, starved of both attention and action. Evelyn realized that institutional indifference was as destructive as direct cruelty. If HR refused to intervene, the manager's abuse would multiply unchecked. The rod extended beyond Victor and Nathan, to the very people entrusted to enforce fairness. Her undercover mission took on new urgency. She needed hard evidence, video, audio, witness statements, that would force the board's hand, bypassing a broken HR channel. If she surfaced from this charade as Rosa with only bruised pride, nothing would change. But armed with indisputable proof, she could rally Michael and loyal directors to restore Carter Technologies' core values. That night, as she cleaned the CEO's private restroom, the one chamber her staff had once respected, Evelyn placed small voice recorders beneath the sink and tucked a discreet camera behind a decorative vase. It would film the next attack, whatever form it took. Rosa's, next move would be to capture their darkest conspiracy. Only then could she return at dawn, scrubbed and smiling, another silent witness in the long battle to redeem her company's soul. Over the next week, Evelyn, still masquerading as Rosa, planted miniature cameras and audio recorders in key locations: Victor King's office alcove, Nathan Price's marketing bullpen, and the HR bullpen near Olivia Brooks's desk. Each night, she retrieved the devices, downloaded files onto a hidden thumb drive, and reviewed them in the quiet of her modest rented flat. One late evening, she approached the 42 Andy floor conference room, lured by hushed voices behind closed doors. Through the recorder's pickup, she heard Victor's clipped tone, "We can't wait any longer. Carter's suspicions are growing." That spurred intervention. Margaret Lane, Vice President of Operations, suggested accelerating plans. Then Nathan chimed in, his voice cold and triumphant. "Once Michael is out of the way, Victor steps in, Margaret takes HR, and we funnel profits into our own subsidiaries." Evelyn's breath caught. The harassing managers and the complicit VP were plotting a boardroom coup. They intended to oust Michael, install themselves, and loot the company. Worse still, Olivia Brooks and Margaret Lane knew enough to prepare forged minutes and false performance reviews to justify Robert's removal. Heart-pounding, Evelyn anonymized and time-stamped the recordings. This wasn't mere sloppiness, it was sedition. Carter Technologies' future, her son's inheritance, and thousands of employees' livelihoods were at stake. Her next step was to verify the plan's financial underpinning. She accessed dormant network shares, her founder's privileges still intact, and pulled confidential budget forecasts. They showed the conspirators had quietly diverted $10 million into shell accounts, funneling it ahead of a leveraged buyout. The numbers matched what she'd overheard: transfer $8 million by next quarter, Nathan had said, and Michael won't notice until it's too late. With evidence in hand, voice files, video clips of Victor's private celebration of regime change, and spreadsheets detailing illicit fund flows, Evelyn realized she held a bombshell. But going public too soon risked alerting the conspirators, who would accelerate their takeover and destroy all traces of wrongdoing. She needed the right stage, the boardroom itself. Meanwhile, she kept cleaning at vantage points near the elevators and conference room entrances, monitoring managers' comings and goings. Each day, she discreetly swapped the thumb drive for a fresh one, concealing it in a small pocket she'd sewn into her uniform. Her mop handle hid a compact digital recorder she'd retrofitted with a hidden mic. On her third gathering run, she caught Margaret Lane on camera instructing a junior HR clerk to classify any complaints from custodial staff as not credible, especially if Rosa is the complainant. That sealed it. HR wasn't just indifferent, it was actively covering up the plot. Now Evelyn had cornerstones for her case: direct testimonies, documentary proof of embezzlement, and evidence of an orchestrated leadership coup. The final piece was timing. Michael had called an emergency board meeting for 9 a.m. tomorrow, just 24 hours away. She returned home, slipped into her civilian clothes, and prepared the master USB drive labeled, "For Michael only." Tomorrow morning, she would enter the boardroom not as Rosa, but as Evelyn Carter, founder and major shareholder, and reveal everything to the assembled directors, turning her undercover humiliation into a decisive reckoning. Evelyn spent a restless night planning every detail. She would clock in as Rosa at 7 a.m., push her cleaning cart past the 45th floor conference room, and stand just outside the boardroom door as the emergency meeting began at 9 a.m. Dressed in her unassuming gray uniform, she'd be invisible until the pivotal moment. At 8:50 a.m., she pushed her cart to the glass doors, pausing to exchange a determined glance with Michael through the small window. He nodded, no words needed. She slipped into the hallway as board members filed past, murmuring about unusual agenda items. Victor King and Nathan Price strode by, nodding at her as though she were air. Olivia Brooks and Margaret Lane followed, their faces masks of corporate composure. Inside, Michael stood at the head of the mahogany table, flanked by board chairman Daniel Lee. The room was packed, legal counsel, finance heads, and the full board, including 2 independent trustees. The tension was electric as Victor took a seat at the far end, shooting furtive glances toward the hallway. Michael opened with gravity, "I called this session because I uncovered systemic misconduct." As he spoke, a projection flickered to life behind him, screenshots of Victor's late-night office tantrums. Gasps rippled through the room, Victor's jaw clenched. Michael then played the first audio clip, Victor King pouring water on Rosa's head. Heads turned toward the hallway window. Evelyn, Rosa, pressed her mop to the ground, expression neutral. Next, Nathan's mocha spill rant, then Margaret Lane's memorandum directing HR to silence custodian complaints. The board sat stunned.